Let's address the first question. Does India need a fifth generation fighter? We clearly understand that any future warfare would require high end of technology, speed, and above all, stealth. If you get detected on any radar anytime, you are dead. So, most of the fighter aircraft in the world today are capable of going supersonic. While they're capable of going supersonic, they're not capable of remaining supersonic throughout the trajectory of their flight.
I see.
So, majority of the fighter aircraft utilize what is called an afterburner. We face two of the world's adversaries, which, while Pakistan may not be modernizing, China always fights us through the proxy of Pakistan and make all their latest equipment and technology available to Pakistan. So we don't have to keep pace with Pakistan, we have to keep pace with China.
Hi, friends. We are back again with another podcast, this time due to popular demand. Thank you. We've received wonderful wishes from all of you. You've all liked our podcast previously. So, today, again, we are going to talk about fifth generation fighter aircrafts and whether India needs it. Do you think India needs it? Let's find out today from Wing Commander Pradeep Valsangkar ji. Pradeep ji, welcome to our studio once again. Please enlighten us on this very important topic about fifth generation fighter jets and how desperately should India get it.
Thank you very much, Pooja, for inviting me to your podcast again. And I am so delighted to see that your first podcast has got very good reviews on YouTube. So, congratulations to you on that. I think you've chosen a perfect topic for this discussion, the fifth generation fighters. Does India need it? And if India does need it, then what is a fifth generation fighter? And where do we stand vis-a-vis developing it ourselves? So let's address the first question. Does India need a fifth generation fighter? Our recent skirmishes, I won't call it a war, a skirmish with Pakistan, has given us a few clear indications. First, any future warfare would be very fast and very ferocious. Number two, it will involve enormous amount of electronics, and electronics will play a lasting role in the outcome of any future warfare. Number three is the training and ability of the men behind these machines that will decide the outcome of any war.
True.
So, having learned these lessons from Ops Sindoor, we clearly understand that any future warfare would require high end of technology, speed, and above all, stealth. What do you mean by stealth? If you get detected on any radar anytime, you are dead. Because there are enough number of missiles, ground to air missiles, air to air missiles, which are capable of tracking you and shooting you down. So, entering enemy territory surreptitiously, whether it is an aircraft, a missile, a drone, entering the enemy territory surreptitiously in a way that you don't paint any radar is critically important in a modern day warfare.
So, is that possible? Does stealth mean complete stealth, or can parts of the aircraft still be discovered by certain radars?
I think that's an important question, because that is also the main feature of any fifth generation fighter. So while addressing your question, let me first tell you what is a fifth generation. Having accepted that yes, India needs a fifth generation fighter, because the outcome of any future war will depend on that. What is a fifth generation fighter? And how is it different from the earlier generation, second, third, fourth generation fighter? So, a fifth generation fighter has got certain defined characteristics. And let's see what these are. First and foremost, these are invariably stealth fighters. What do you mean by stealth? Stealth means ability to enter enemy territory without being detected. And we'll elaborate on it. Second, its ability to carry enormous amount of electronics
Okay.
for electronic warfare, because as we saw in the last podcast, even before the first bullet is fired, first bomb is dropped, a lot of electronic war that is going to happen between the adversaries, and it's very important that India wins that electronic war with the adversary.
Absolutely.
So a fifth generation fighter will need to carry adequate amount of electronic on board. Number three is speed. Most of the fighter aircraft today in the world are capable of going supersonic, which is higher than the speed of sound.
Okay.
Uh, one Mach means one equivalent of speed of sound. When I say two Mach means twice the speed of sound. 3 Mach is 3 times the speed of sound. So most of the fighter aircraft in the world today are capable of going supersonic.
Okay.
While they're capable of going supersonic, they're not capable of remaining supersonic throughout the trajectory of their flight.
I see.
So, majority of the fighter aircraft utilize what is called an afterburner.
Okay.
Once they have reached full throttle, there is something called an afterburner where fuel is injected right at the exhaust, and that gives a boost to the aircraft, and it goes supersonic.
Okay.
But a lot of third, fourth generation fighter aircraft are capable of engaging afterburner and going supersonic for a little period of their time, but they cannot sustain that supersonic speed.
So typically, for how long is it sustainable?
So there are phases of flight when supersonic speeds are attained or afterburner is engaged. One is during takeoff, because that's the time when maximum thrust is required. Second, if you're trying to get away from a situation, you engage afterburner, go supersonic, and quickly get out of the situation. So there are certain stages of any combat where you would engage an afterburner to attain speed. But because these fighter aircraft cannot remain on that speed and remain on afterburner, they fall back to subsonic speeds. Whereas a fifth generation fighter aircraft is capable of remaining supersonic throughout the flight trajectory. So that's the third and important feature of a fifth generation fighter. And the last but not the least feature of a fifth generation fighter is an integrated electronic platform on board, which means an aeroplane actually is a platform for carrying weapons, bombs, and electronic gadgets.
Okay.
This platform needs to be multicentric, capable of carrying multiple weapons and electronic equipment from multiple vendors without having a problem of integrating with them.
Okay.
To give you an example, yeah, let me give you an example. Take any modern aircraft, say Mirage. Mirage aircraft has got an onboard computer. Now, this computer needs to shake hands with every weapon system that is put on an aircraft.
I see.
And a lot of these weapon systems and electronic equipment is not an integral part of the fighter aircraft. They are slapped on the wings
I see.
and they carry it as an external store.
Okay.
Because after the sortie, when they are coming back on some occasions, take for example a fuel tank,
Okay.
the internal capacity of a fighter aircraft to carry fuel is limited.
Right.
But they carry external drop tanks in which fuel is carried.
Okay.
And once they have consumed the entire gas out of those drop tanks, while coming back, if they want to attain higher speeds, they just jettison these tanks.
I see.
They just drop these tanks.
Okay.
The moment the tanks are dropped, the weight of the aircraft becomes less and the aircraft is capable of flying much faster
Faster.
than.
Okay.
So, all these external loads, as we say, should be able to be integrated seamlessly with the platform or the aircraft. So these are the some of these characteristics of a fifth generation aircraft, and let's examine each one of them in more detail. So let's begin with stealth, which is the first characteristic we talked about. What is stealth? Stealth is, in the last podcast, we discussed about radar
Yes.
and how aircraft gets detected by a radar
And how important radars are in today's warfare.
and how important it is the radars are in today's warfare. So because radars are capable of tracking you, the electronic countermeasure to that was to confuse the radar. And one track of confusing the radars is what we saw in the last podcast, wherein we were dropping leaves or we used what was called transponders. We received that energy from the radar, garble it, and throw it back at the radar. So radar never receives the energy in the same form that it transmitted, and radar doesn't know whether it's a ricochet from an aircraft or a completely different.
So we successfully confused the aircraft to achieve higher electronic counter measures.
Correct.
And now with stealth, we achieve even a higher level.
So with stealth, the philosophy changes. With stealth, instead of confusing the radar, I minimize my echo on the radar to a level where it is not discernible.
I see.
So though a big aircraft is flying into the radar zone, the radar is not capable of detecting it. And
Okay.
how do I do it?
Yes, how is that made possible?
How is that made
And
possible?
why was it not possible until now?
And why was it not possible until now? So a lot of research went into this, and they realized that some parts of the airframe of an aircraft ricocheted or reflected electromagnetic energy far higher than many other parts. So they realized that rough edges of the wings and the tail and the fuselage reflected much higher energy than smooth parts of the aircraft. So one methodology to reduce the radar, what we call radar signature,
Okay.
is to smoothen all the edges of the airframe.
Okay.
So if you see a stealth fighter, its shape would be very different from a normal fighter. It will not have any sharp edges at all. That's first step of converting a normal aircraft into a stealth aircraft. Second, over a long period of time, research has enabled the scientists to develop paints which are capable of absorbing electromagnetic energy.
Paints like you
Paint, yeah, painting.
PAINT paint.
PAINT paint.
Okay.
So there is electromagnetic absorbent paint. So you just
Wow.
paint the entire aircraft with that paint, and its reflection of electromagnetic energy will go down by 50-60%.
Okay. Very interesting.
So these are the two technologies I talked about. You just smoothen out all the sharp edges on the body of an aeroplane. You paint it with a radar absorbent paint.
Are there any special materials that could be used to make the fuselage?
And the third is use of several other materials which do not reflect electromagnetic energy.
So does it mean that entire aircraft can be invisible to the radar then?
So, in fact, as I was coming for this podcast, you had sent me this video wherein they have shown the radar signature of different types of aircraft.
Yes. F-22
Raptor, F-35,
Rafales also.
Rafales, Su-57s, Mirages, and these different aircraft. Take, for example, a normal big fighter Su variety of aircraft would paint a radar with a signature the size of, say, this glass.
So a person looking at the radar would think it's not an aircraft
No.
and would get duped?
No, so if I see the blip or the size of a glass on my radar, I know it's an aircraft, and if it's moving at a much faster speed, I know it's a fighter
So if
aircraft.
somebody like you, who's trained in electronic warfare, is behind the radar and he sees a glass-like signature, what would he think and how would he alert?
I would immediately know that it's a fast moving supersonic aircraft coming towards us, and I would alert the entire air defense system of my airfield, and all the missiles will get ready and they will shoot at it. But if I am a stealth aircraft, the same radar blip will become the size of a peanut.
And what about the speed with which that dot would move?
That speed cannot be changed. The speed will remain. But even a big kite paints a radar.
Oh, I see.
A big kite flying at 20,000 feet, and these birds are capable of going there, they would paint the radar.
So it is sufficient to confuse the radar.
It is sufficient to not only confuse but also blind the radar.
Okay.
So, stealth technology is capable of reducing the radar signature of an aircraft by 80 to 90%, and rest of the 10% can be done by electronic countermeasure
I see.
of jamming the radar.
Right.
So, combination of stealth and electronic countermeasure would ensure that the aircraft, a fifth generation aircraft, does not have any radar signature and stealthily enters the enemy territory, does whatever task it is assigned, and comes back.
Okay.
That's-
That's one. Now
Yeah.
let's talk about the next one, avionics, let's say.
So let's talk about avionics. As we saw in Ops Sindoor, today avionics is the game changer. A modern fighter aircraft needs to carry on board several electronic equipment. It needs to carry navigation equipment. After it takes off and you put the bearing of a target, after that, pilot should not be worried or bothered about physically navigating the aircraft to that target. He should just put the coordinates of that target into the navigation system and forget about it. Because there is too much of workload on a modern day fighter pilot. He has to navigate, he has to see electronic systems, he has to be aware of the battlefield scenario, he has to be worried about any weapon systems tracking him, he has to be worried about his painting any radar equipment, he has to operate all the systems on board. There is a lot of workload on the fighter pilot. Plus, he has to fly the aircraft. Even though the aircraft could be on autopilot. So we need to reduce the workload of a fighter pilot in a fifth generation aircraft. So a lot of electronic gets carried. The first is a radar. He has to be aware of any flying objects in his vicinity. He has to be aware of his having painted any of the enemy radars. The moment he paints any enemy radar, he should get a warning that you have been detected.
Okay, that also is possible.
Yes,
Is it happening in fourth generation fighter jets?
it is happening in fourth generation fighters, but that needs to be a part of the fifth generation fighter.
Yes.
It needs to, as I said, in stealth, electronically it has to drastically reduce its signatures on the enemy radars. It has to carry electronic countermeasures. It has to carry laser designation pods to fire laser weaponry. If by any chance, and I don't even want to discuss it, if he's carrying any nuclear warheads, then that's a completely different electronic game. So here he's carrying a lot of electronic equipment on board, and none of that is an integral part of the aircraft. They all are stand-alone equipment which are connected to the pylons.
And made by different manufacturers, possibly.
Made by different manufacturers, using different technologies, using different codes, using different computer languages, and they need to shake hands with the mission computer on board the aircraft.
Right.
So, a modern fifth generation aircraft needs to be in a position to shake hands with all kinds of weapon systems and electronic warfare equipment that gets manufactured by different manufacturers. So that's the second point that we discuss. The third issue we talked about was supersonic speed, ability to maintain supersonic speed. And I think that's where India is facing its biggest challenge.
Okay.
While jet engines have been in vogue since the Second World War, the first jet engine was used during the Second World War. Making jet engines has not percolated down to more than 4 manufacturers across the world.
Very interesting. And why is that so?
And it is because a jet engine has got two specific parts. One is the turbine, and second is the engine. The engine burns the fuel, rotates the turbine, and the turbine sucks the air, puts it into the engine, and where thrust gets developed. And these turbines and engines have got blades made of very high temperature resistant steel with a very specific taper,
Okay.
so that they exactly get the air at a specific rate, push it into the gas chambers where it is mixed with fuel and burnt in the engine. Somehow, that material technology mastering has not been easy across the world, and India has been facing that challenge for quite some time.
Is that one of the primary reason for delay in India acquiring
So,
and
if you
making fifth
see,
generation aircrafts indigenously?
I would say so. I would say so. India has been struggling to make Kaveri engine, which is our jet engine experiment, and in spite of that, Tejas still depends on engines from GE, and
I heard we just got one engine in 10 years from GE.
right. So unless and until we are able to produce jet engines ourselves, this problem will remain, and so that is, fortunately, India has moved way ahead in the field of electronics.
Yeah.
Whether it is computing, artificial intelligence, IoT devices, blockchain, all these technologies, India has moved ahead, and so is that. Unfortunately, the same thing has not happened on the material technology front.
I see.
And probably because historically India has not been on the forefronts of manufacturing. We have not been that good in the field of manufacturing. So that is why producing a jet engine has been a challenge, but this challenge has been recognized quite some time back, and all our research agencies, including HAL, DRDO, ADA, Aviation Development Authority, have been working on it, and I'm hopeful that soon solutions would be found, and India will have an indigenously developed fifth generation engine made in India.
We look forward to that. Tell us about AMCA. We've heard a lot about AMCA. What is AMCA and by when will India develop it?
So, AMCA is Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft Project of India, which is our fifth generation, sixth generation fighter aircraft project. It is a very ambitious project. Only the fifth country in the world, that is India, has attempted to do this.
Which are the other four?
America, Russia, China, and France
France.
are the only 4 countries which
Fifth generation.
have contributed to fifth generation fighter projects, and of which only 3 countries, that is China, Russia, and
The
America,
US.
have currently flying fifth generation aircraft.
Thank you for clearing that confusion because it seems three have showing
Got,
their
yes,
aeroplanes as fifth generation, but
correct.
people say four countries have it, and India will be the fifth. So I was wondering which is the fourth one.
Correct. So only three countries currently have got flying aircraft: uh, China, Russia, and America. And the day India produces AMCA, we would be the fourth country. As far as AMCA is concerned, the project actually started way back in 2009-10, and the first prototype is expected to fly sometime next year. Uh, we have got all the electronics on board. We have got all the ECM, ECCM, and other electronic equipment that is needed for a fifth generation aircraft. I am frankly not aware of the status of the engine. Hopefully, the engine development is keeping pace, and we would have the fifth generation engine available for AMCA by 2026. And we are very hopeful that by 2026, the first advanced medium combat aircraft from India belonging to the fifth generation would take to the skies.
We've heard China is giving the latest fighter jets to Pakistan, and they've already started training their pilots. Isn't it important that we have our fifth generation fighter jets in our team before 2030 or before the set deadline by the time AMCA is ready? Don't we need it faster than 2026 or 2030?
Pooja, so as a army man, I need the best of equipment available in the world to fight a war.
Absolutely.
You
To win the
know,
war also.
to win the war also. So I don't, frankly, I am not concerned with the issue of making it in India or making it elsewhere. As far as I am concerned, I need the best at the time of war. Having said that, there is a larger agenda at the national level where we want to be self reliant over a long period of time.
Agreed. We need to develop self reliance in this so that we don't have to depend on anybody for any bit of technology. But while that is happening, and it's happening slowly, shouldn't we buy a few fighter jets?
Very good question and very good discussion point. These are the kind of decisions that a government grapples with, make or buy. While self sufficiency is very, very important, it is always also important to keep one step ahead of the adversary. And at any point of time, if China gives J-20s to Pakistan, I'm sure government will take cognizance of that fact and would take corrective actions. I have no doubts about it. But at the same time, we are going ahead with AMCA, and by 2035 also, if we are able to start producing AMCA ourselves, it will be a huge breakthrough in Atmanirbhar Bharat and in self-sufficiency in the field of technology. Today, India has put a rocket on the moon, on the dark side of the moon. And if India can do that, I'm sure Indian technology experts are at work to produce the fifth generation supersonic jet engine, and sooner or later we will develop it.
Okay. So tell us, there are now these three countries. US has F-22 and F-35.
Correct.
Russia has Su-57, and China has J-20.
Correct.
Tell us a bit about each of these and the differences. Which one is more superior, if I would ask?
Very difficult question to answer. And I must candidly confess that a, a, a point by point comparison of the three fighter aircraft has rarely been done in the defense research periodicals and literature. Um,
Maybe some characteristics you can tell us about each.
so F-22 and
If India was to buy and had all these three options, which one should India go for?
So, from a purely technological field, uh, one would need to look at the stealth and electronic capability of these aircraft. If I was to ride the uh, QR requirements of a fifth generation fighter. While speed would be important for me, stealth and electronic warfare capability would take predominance.
Yes.
So I would compare the electronic warfare capability and stealth of Su-57. J-20 will never be available to you,
Available
so
to
let's
us,
not even
yes.
discuss
Yes.
that. So Su-57 versus F-35, and I'm sure there are experts sitting at this point of time in Ministry of Defense, Air Headquarters, HAL, ADA, and other organizations which are comparing apples to apples. And at an appropriate time, if India decides that we need to have fifth generation squadron right now in our inventory, then an appropriate decision would
Will
be
be
taken.
taken by a government.
Yeah. So I think in today's podcast, Pooja, you have initiated a very important discussion, and we have discussed does India need a
Answer
fifth
is
generation?
yes.
The answer was yes. Then we found out what are the characteristics of a fifth generation fighter, and we discussed about the need for speed, stealth, electronics, weaponry. Uh, these are the characteristics, and we discussed each one of them at length. And then we discussed our own indigenous project, AMCA, Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft Project, which aims to put the first fifth generation aircraft in the skies by 2035. Once we have got AMCA, India will move into the elite class of only 4 or 5 nations in the world which will have this level of fighting capability, and we need it today because we face two of the world's adversaries, which, while Pakistan may not be modernizing, China always fights us through the proxy of Pakistan and make all their latest equipment and technology available to Pakistan. So we don't have to keep pace with Pakistan, we have to keep pace with China.
Absolutely. We need to match our technology and our strength with China.
Yes.
And the sooner we achieve that, the better it is for India.
Correct. And so I am sure that today's podcast with you would give a clear picture to your viewers as to what is fifth generation aircraft, why does India need it, what are the challenges we are facing in developing one ourselves, what is an AMCA program, and once we receive it, how it will put India on the world map of a superior fighting arm.
So let me connect our first and second podcast. When we talked about missiles like BrahMos, can a BrahMos detect a fifth generation fighter jet?
Oh, good question. So, BrahMos is fundamentally a ground based surface to surface missile. I am not aware of BrahMos surface to air missile. The better comparison would be whether an
Akash or
Akash,
maybe an Akash, any of our indigenous systems, can
any
they
of the indigenous systems would be able to detect
and
uh,
bring them down?
and bring them down. So the first thing is whether Akash would be able to detect a fifth generation aircraft. At this stage, a truly fifth or sixth generation aircraft would be having capacities to diffuse an Akash.
I
But
see.
I am sure that Akash Tir, which we discussed is a command and control system, is not a static technology. It's
Right.
not cast in stone.
They will also be
DR,
developing it.
DRDO is studying the stealth technology as developed by China and others. What are their characteristics? What kind of radar equipment they are using? How they are reducing the radar signature? And I'm sure as we talk, countermeasures to that
Are being developed.
are being developed. So it's a moving technology warfare. While we know bullets are being fired between India, China, Pakistan, there is this technology rivalry that's happening in the labs of each of the country. We are trying to find out what technology development they are doing, trying to get the details, trying to develop countermeasures against that. So it's a continuous process. And we
So,
Hope.
does that also mean that once AMCA comes in, then for our enemies to counter AMCA will also require a certain amount of technological development on their side and a certain amount of time?
Absolutely. So you saw that during Ops Sindoor, while none of their missiles, UAVs or drones could come and hit because of our Akash Tir and S-400 systems, our BrahMos went seamlessly and hit all the targets that they were designated, which means that their air defense system could not detect BrahMos. I'm sure Pakistanis have learned a lesson from that. And as we speak, they are trying to find out how to ensure
Countermeasures for now
effect,
tracking and bringing down BrahMos.
absolutely effective detection of BrahMos. So they, and while they are themselves not capable of developing this, all that information would have gone to Chinese labs, and some counter technology is being developed in China labs already.
So it's a continuous process.
Absolutely.
Every country has to keep innovating, investing in technology, in defense equipment, and in the latest, whether it's fighter jets or armaments of any other sort, so that they are always above the technology level of their counterparts. So thank you so much. I think this has been a very, very interesting podcast for all of us. I have learned so much about fifth generation fighter jets. If you have questions, please post them in the comments, and I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you, Pooja. Thanks a lot for inviting me for this podcast. It is always a pleasure to come to your podcast and talk to you on different topics.
Thank you so much. Hi, friends. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you've liked our series on defense technology so far, please do like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Also, follow us on Instagram because that gives us the motivation to keep bringing such interesting content to you. Take care and goodbye.